Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Angel Face Magic Hour. Today, we are here with one of my favorite people, M. Armstrong. So, let's get into our conversation. I'd just like to have you introduce yourself to everyone.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you today. Um, yeah, deeply love you. And
Thank you. I love you too.
I'm we've known each other a while. And in that time, like I started practicing body work and particularly craniosacral therapy. I took Reiki from you last year and loved it so much. And it's really like expanded my practice, like my personal practice and how I work with people. Um, yeah, I identify as like neurodivergent and queer and genderqueer and kind of in like a big um, transition place with how I practice right now. And your work has been really supportive to me moving through that.
Thank you. I love you. Yeah, Emma and I met a long time ago in Oakland, and you modeled for me in like my fashion show thing. That's how we met. So that was
Yes.
really a cool opportunity. But yeah, we've moved up here in Sonoma County around the same time. So it's been interesting to see. I feel like we're on a mirroring trajectory. Like when something happens with you, I'm like, what's gonna happen to me next? Um, so it's been pretty interesting. But yeah, you helped me get my first job after I went to esthetician school, and then yeah, we've just been able. I feel like it's cool because I can see how like you have grown, but also, of course, you're the same person. you know.
Totally. Yeah, totally. See that in you too. Yes.
But I would just love to have you share with us, like, is there anything that you're doing right now that's like informing your personal practice? Like, are you doing anything? Doesn't have to necessarily be like an everyday thing, but like something that allows you to feel connected.
Yeah. I mean, I have like a daily kind of spiritual check in practice that I do with myself that involves like card pulling and checking in with my guides. Um, but I also have been on like a recovery journey for the last year and a half. And that's actually been like a huge boost in a like lot of different ways in my life and has helped me start opening up to a lot of different things. Um, and I'm also like exploring ACA or like adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families right now. And I think like those practices, like those commitments have really helped me um like bolstered my commitment to myself. And so like my spiritual practice is really rooted in like my recovery practices and like commitment to embodying and being in alignment with what I believe in. Um, yeah. Yeah, does that answer that question?
Yeah, totally. Is there anything like specific within that? Like you like to do journaling and things like that?
For sure. Oh my God, I'm such a journaler. Really like creative practices are a big thing for me. I feel like I'm in a big time of like reclaiming my creativity. So journaling is huge.
You're gonna tell us about your fan fiction that you're writing?
Hell the fuck yeah. Um, yeah, I write like Star Wars fan fiction to process grief because why not? Um, yeah, that's like I was actually working on that this morning. And I'm also just like learning new things. Like my brother's teaching me to play guitar right now. And I've
I
always
love
wanted to learn
that.
to play guitar and I love singing. So singing and writing like are and words are like a really big thing for me right now. So it's actually fun to be on the podcast
Yes, I
doing
love
doing
that.
words in a different way. Yeah.
Speaking of words, there's
Yes.
some crazy. Oh, there's an ambulance going by. I was like, what is that shrill sound? So sorry about that, you guys. Um, that's our confirmation.
Speaking the
But I,
words.
I think like I think sometimes we separate like these creative practices from what is like spirituality, but I think they're one and the same. Like any way that's going to get you connected, it doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, I'm praying to this God or this whatever. It's like finding those ways that make you feel like you are inside your body.
Totally agree. And, you know, being somebody who's kind of like felt sense oriented, like play is super important to me right now. Like having more play, integrating more play into my life is like a huge way that I'm like growing my spiritual practice and growing my trust in myself, growing my trust in like believing what my body is feeling, believing what my body is sensing, and how that informs like, you know, how I move about the world and how I work with people too.
Yeah, and I know both of us have had a lot of like weird digestive problems and all sorts of like kind of physical stuff. So I think it's like going through that can often make us feel even more disconnected. So it's like find those ways to feel comfortable in the body, even if it's like kind of weird sometimes.
Totally agree. Yeah, and I like just physical symptoms that don't necessarily correlate to things too, or where like you don't like I've done lab work over a number of years, and it's like I don't really have a diagnosis, but I have like, you know, symptoms that are persistent. And I've been doing some interesting stuff exploring that recently too. So yeah, again, like you were saying, like just the interconnectedness of like the creative process um and gifts and spiritual practice and embodiment. Yeah, they're so interwoven.
Yes. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about the Celestial Journey, which is a service I do, and did this with me. When was this, like 4 months ago or something? 5 months ago?
Yeah, I think it was like the fall, end of fall last year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I had you do this with me because I wanted you to come and talk about it, but also I think it was a cathartic experience. Um, but we recorded that session and then I had you listen back to it more recently and just kind of reflect upon what came up, what has shifted, and like what your awareness is like thinking about now versus like right after it happened. Um, but I'm gonna kind of just explain what it is, and then we'll have you kind of talk about your experience, and then we'll see what else wants to come through and come up. But I've been doing this, I don't know how long, like half a year or something, exploring this idea of taking people into this like an altered kind of trance state. So it's allowing people, my idea, my perspective is it's allowing people to experience the Akashic records, the astral realms, like past life memory, parallel lives. Like we could go so many different places, but it's allowing people to experience it for themselves face to face, like without, rather than me being like, okay, I'm doing a reading and I'm telling you what I see and what I feel and what you could learn. Like that can be helpful, but I think oftentimes the most helpful is to experience it yourself and to be able to really feel those things, see those things. And like you're very intuitive, so I'm sure it's a little bit easier for you than anyone doing this. But the process is to allow anyone to experience that, whether or not they feel they're intuitive, and be able to like see and feel and know things. And it's not just psychics that can do that. I think anyone can be psychic, can be intuitive. It's just like turning on certain parts of your brain. So what we do is we take you into this altered space. I use meditation and like energy healing, and then we essentially are just having a conversation with your subconscious mind. So I liken it to kind of like a regression hypnotic state, meets like a shamanic journey. So how I see it is we really are going there. We really are going to that place. We're journeying there. We're taking our energy out of our body and we're going there. Versus I think hypnosis is more like just your mind, at least how I perceive it's like your mind is going there. I see it as like we're taking our whole energy and like we're actually traveling and going to see stuff. So for you, we looked at a couple of different things. We looked at some past life stuff, some stuff came up with your spirit guides. So I just love to have you kind of share a little bit about your experience. So first, I would just love to have you, if you were to explain it to someone, what this process is, like simple few sentences, what would you say?
I would say that, it was a deep state of like relaxation and trance work that helped me connect with support that I need, inner support that I need, or connect with guidance that is able to kind of help me cross a threshold that I'm looking to cross, and to feel empowered and resourced while making big changes in my life. So I think that was even like the question that we like posed was, like what guidance was available for me as I'm in this time of transition. And yeah, like you said, there were a couple big things. And I guess I just also want to name that, like, I do feel like I have like strong visualization skills, and that like in the last 6 months in particular, I've been like making contact and moving through a lot of like doubt in my abilities. And, I had times through you guiding the meditation where I was like, am I seeing this? Am I experiencing this? And the way that you were guiding it and prompting and like responding to, because, I was explaining all of this out loud to you while it was going on. And every time I kind of got stuck or was feeling doubt, like I felt like you were able to really move me through, and you asked questions about like what else I could see or what else I could sense or experience. Like I did really feel that like full body sensing during it, as opposed to just like seeing things. Like you kept cueing me into like what else was going on sensation wise, and that really supported me anytime I was kind of like feeling stuck or was doubting. So I think like what we were first doing was connecting with a guide when we got to the Akashic record space, which just was like a space that.
Yeah, what did it look like? Tell us.
Yeah, so there were like a series of doorways to get to this place, but it ended up like I had been underwater. I had this underwater door that opened up to a space that was not underwater. Which is why I love the physics of like these shamanic spaces. It's like, take me to the places where physics break down. Yeah, totally. And it was this big, like open air, blue sky, perfect clouds, like rows of bookshelves. It was just extremely tall bookshelf after extremely tall bookshelf off like as far as my eye could see. And it was just so beautiful. Like being there felt so good. My whole body just felt so good. It was like my place. It was like, it calmed me a lot. And you had like, I got to sit down and like invite a guide in. And it's interesting thinking about this guide now, because I know I've been working with them for a long time. But it just felt so good to get to meet them. And so you helped me invite them in, and they're actually the angel in my tarot deck, which is on the card Temperance, and I have it. I know people listening can't see it, but it's the goddess Isis in my tarot deck. Is the goddess of the rainbow, and in Greek mythology, and we sat next to each other. I have a lot of like, none of my guides are really verbal, like in this meditation or just in any of my like guided work. It's like my guides are always like giving me nonverbal transmissions and physical sensations. And so like Iris sat next to me and comforted me. And yeah, it was just this like immense like feeling in my heart and shoulders and upper body of like warmth and opening and like intimacy. Like they were leaning their head against mine. It was just this like really intimate, beautiful experience that I didn't expect to feel. And
no, they gave you a name.
Yeah, they gave me the name Iris, and that was when I realized it was the angel on my tarot deck, because I was like, ooh, angel being. And then they gave me that name to connect with them. Yeah. Yeah, and you asked if they would also if they gave me anything else that I could like connect with them through, and they gave me like a little glass bird that they put into my heart. And
Oh yeah.
so I get like excited feelings when I see little like songbirds, and that always makes me, it's like always a reminder that I'm supported. And um I mean, obviously seeing like a purple iris around gets me super stoked too. Like I remember a couple days after we had done the journey, I was walking around in downtown Santa Rosa, and there's like this mosaic like out in front of the old music store down there, and it like had an iris, and I was like, I've probably walked by this a million times and never noticed it, but like there it was. And yeah, just that confirmation, and that we love those confirmations like coming
Yeah.
out from our inner world, seeing them external. So yeah, that was like the first phase of it.
Yeah, we kind of connected with your guides and they gave you like just insight information. And then I can't remember if we went into I know we went into a past life, but I don't remember like the sequencing.
um yeah, we went. um
Because was it in
oh,
your
you
books?
yeah, it was in my book, so that's right. So yeah, apparently those bookshelves were like my lifetimes or my
Children's lifetime.
experiences. I'm like, good, it goes on forever. Yes, I know. um yeah, you had me pull out a like book, and there was an image in it, and we went into the image. um which was kind of wild. I guess you helped me get to like a lifetime where I had been a super hermit and like kind of um magical practitioner, and like had died, and like I don't know, it was kind of a trip. I like brought that part of myself back to their home. I don't know, there was like some kind of healing experience that happened.
Yeah, like a soul retrieval type of thing.
That
Like
what that's
taking it's there's many ways to describe it, but it's like taking putting things back where they should be, quote unquote, because who knows, but like mending those things so that you can feel that healing in this life, like whatever that lifetime informed or affected you. It's like being able to not only get the information like, oh, that's cool, I learned about myself in this thing, but it's more about like the clearing of the pain or the hurt that we hold from those other lifetimes.
right. That reminds me, because it
I
was
remember you
like
were on a horse or something.
yeah, yeah, because I remember it was something like what what words. Oh, okay. Asked like, show me a past experience when I used my spiritual and psychic gifts so I could integrate them into this lifetime. And yeah, it was like a version of myself that had, it like took me to a hillside where there was a tree and a horse, and I rode the horse down to this like cottage of my dreams. And that was when I started realizing that like I was dead, or I had died. It was just this sadness and like um cold cold sad feelings. And I think what was really interesting about connecting with this part of myself was, well, bringing them back to their home, because they had died away from their home, like bringing them back to their home, because it was like a place that they really loved, and like everything in it was like so perfect. It was like this, like every little tool that they made was like exactly what they needed. And people came to them for healing, and they like lived next to this creek with these trees and their horse, and like their horse was their best friend, and like that was it, that was their world, and they had like this really quiet little beautiful life. But after bringing them back, like we were like cleaning up the cobwebs and stuff in the cottage. And um, the thing that I really took away from that was that they like had their, it was like this 1600s or 1700s like feeling to it. Like they had a dress and like an apron, and their hair was like all uptight in this bun. And after they were home and comfortable, and we were like cleaning up the house, cleaning up the cottage, they like took their hair down and were like shaking their hair out. And they were like telling me about the importance of being connected to other people and being wild and being brave. And that it was like something that
Oh,
they
gives me
didn't,
chills.
I loved it so much because it was something that they actually like, they're definitely, you know, somebody that was skilled in their arts, but that was something that they regretted in their life, was that they weren't more connected with people, that they weren't more wild, and that they wanted me in this lifetime to get to be brave. And
I'm gonna cry.
it was awesome. I like didn't want to leave too. You know, you had to help me. I had to call in Iris, to like the angel, to be able to leave, because I was like, no, I'm just gonna stay here with my like self and
Well, you
enjoy
know, you
being
can always
back.
go back there.
That's what I was just thinking about that when I was listening to the recording. Like I haven't done any meditation with them since then.
You definitely could go back there, or like imagine yourself going into the records and like how we sat and invited your guide forward. You could do that same thing, asking, that past life version or any other past life version of you to, it's like, just to come chill.
I, you know, the feeling that I had like in that moment and with Iris was just like being in such comfortable company, having such a sense of ease. And um, that's been a struggle for me. A lot of my life is like relaxing into comfort with other people. Um, which sounds kind of funny to say as somebody who like does touch for a living with people, but I think that's why I'm so interested in the healing arts, and like why it's such a thing that I like kind of don't even have a choice about pursuing, is that like connection and intimacy and all the different ways that like healing happens are just a part of my experience in this lifetime, and apparently in maybe some other lifetimes too. But yeah, I just had this like in both of those journeys, or both of the parts of that journey, like I had this openness in like my my chest and my heart. And there were times where I was like feeling pain in my hands and my arms, and um and it would always like clear and leave me with this like openness and warmth. And um even listening to that recording again recently, it was like that was really what I took away from it. That was really what I was feeling when I was in that space. And these are areas where I have some chronic stuff, so it just felt like such a healing. There was just such a healing element to getting to be with guides that supported that and allow it. I think that's the other thing too, is being able to allow um, open-heartedness and connection.
Yeah. I think too, like, okay, you can provide that feeling for others, but like, letting yourself receive it too. Like, and to be comfortable. It's like, okay, you can be comfortable alone, but I'm the same way. It's like getting to be able to feel like you can fully shut down and like take it all off, as they say, like with others. And that can be really difficult.
Yeah. And you like hit the nail on the head. Like such a caregiver. Like I've been such a caregiver since I was a kid. And I think that was why like my practice in the last year has been like changing so much, because I've been like working in an unsustainable way, like since before I got into like paid work with people. Like that was just part of what I understood about what people, or like misunderstood about what people needed or wanted from me, from like family dynamic stuff and I think also like gendered female like cultural stuff. But yeah, learning to like receive has been a big part of what's been up for me, and totally relates to this.
Yeah. So what do you feel like listening back to it? How do you feel like that has changed, like from the feeling you felt like right after and like the feeling listening back? Like, I'm sure there's new insights and stuff, but is there anything you want to share about that?
Yeah, I think I was just really dialed into like the physical like while I was listening to it again, it was just everything that I was experiencing um was really physical. It was really my physical body. And I just kept noticing that while listening. It was like how many physical experiences I had during that. And I think, I know there's all those types of like clairvoyance and like I do
Clairsentience is psychic feeling.
is that well, and then there's also like clairkinesthetic, which is where you can like feel um like sometimes I feel what other people feel in my work, and I've had to do a lot to be able to like differentiate what's me and what's someone else. Um,
Yeah,
so
that's the same thing.
yeah, okay. Um,
It's
it
like
was
sometimes it's the messages you receive are physical, like
yes,
your guides or whatever around you that might give you a feeling or a sensation, but it's also like reading others through that lens. So, okay, you're working on
mm,
a client, maybe you start feeling
mm,
discomfort. You could be experiencing what they're experiencing, which isn't always good for,
no, it's not. And like I feel like I have so many more tools now for working with that. Like just even being like, oh, that's not mine, and then I uh, in my head say something to help them release it if that's something that's meant for them to be released. Like I didn't have that skill set, like even I guess at the time of this recording as much as I do now. So I recognized so much that how I interpret psychic information comes through my physical body, and how much I've learned even since this recording about trusting what I feel in my body and being able to like I have so many more psychic defenses now than I had. That was all, like I just even want to say from like doing Reiki training with you how much that's helped with like I have a ritual for before I work with someone, I have a ritual for after I work with someone. I just feel like energetically I'm able to move stuff and not hold on to stuff so much more. And coming back to like everything that I was feeling in these journeys was like my arms, my hands, my chest. Like these are the parts of the body that we use to like hold others or
it's an extension of our heart too. So when
absolutely.
our
Yeah.
heart is closed, like, or not even closed sometimes, but just like halfway open or whatever, it's like we can experience all that in in our hands and our arms. And the work you do, it's like
Mhm.
you're actually touching people.
Yeah.
So that's like a big thing. But I think too, like having, yeah, like you're saying, having the framework for it, like not just like, oh, I'm experiencing this mysterious pain. It's like, what is this telling me? Is this
Right.
for someone else? Is this a message for me? Is this telling me I need this or that in my body? Or is this just like a way the message is coming through? Like, it doesn't always have to be like, oh, I feel this pain and that means I have whatever disease.
Yeah.
Whatever. It can often be like just the way stuff comes through. I think too that something that can be helpful is building up the other skills too. So like, you said you're very skilled in visualization. So it's like asking your guides, your spirits to come through to you with a vision or an image, or they could give you information like downloads, telepathy type of thing, rather than it only coming through the body. Because it's like it could, like for me, what I've kind of built it up as is like having the message come through the body if I need it to, if I'm not going to understand it otherwise. But I prefer it to come other ways because I was experiencing so much pain.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I feel like that's like a perfect thing for me to start doing and asking. Um, I think like being kiddos who are like really feelers too, is just like, I didn't even know I was allowed to have boundaries with like not taking on what other people have going on. And it's interesting in doing like grief and trauma work, how sometimes there's like a big uptick in pain, physical
Yeah.
pain while doing like that type of processing. And like now I do dialogue with my pain more. I do ask what's going on. I do like have more of a relationship with it than turning away from it. And I think that's another like layer to health and pain. There's so many reasons that chronic pain happens. So I don't want to like dismiss,
Of course. We're not
any of
saying
it.
like every pain is a fucking psych message.
Fuck no.
We're
But
talking about you
yes,
specifically. Yeah.
yeah. But I do like notice that sometimes when I'm bracing against my own pain, like, and that means emotional pain too, like not being able to deal with the grief in my life, like that, that I can like increase my own pain. And that's such a metaphor also for how we work with our pain too, right? Like our suffering in life, and that trying to avoid it and turn away from it or ignore it like will kind of increase its strength. Like yeah, so I know that working with these things on myself also completely improves how I like do relationships like outside of work. And
Friends, ever heard of them?
I love them. Not just my cat, I swear.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And I think like the type of work you were doing, like we both were working in like spa, quick, fast paced type of shit. And there is no room for you to feel pain or to take a break or to even eat food ever or drink water. It's very unhealthy, that industry, for something that claims to be like wellness. So to take yourself out of that and to say, okay, how can I work in a way that is sustainable for my body, but also actually makes you feel good? And you can use all your skills. It's not like, I'm just here to be the robot that's quiet. It's like you have thoughts and interpretations and things that can help people. So it's like, I know we talked about this before, but like finding a way that you can help people that is through words and through like conversation, not just physical touch. And I think you have a lot to offer with that. So it's like finding out how, just waiting to see how that's going to work out. It doesn't have to happen like tomorrow, but it's like unfolding. So I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, I'm so impatient. I keep thinking that it's going to be something that just like, this process of learning to create a practice and create a life that is more generative and sustainable for like the skills that I have and the energy that I have is like really helping me feel more comfortable in, what if it's all process? What if it's all transition? What if I'm like kind of working on this for a long time or it never ends, like, and just being okay with that, which is so
I'm
not
always
me.
changing. I'm always changing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just so like fiery and impatient, I think a bit. And like learning to not be so reactive and learning to enjoy the process more, which is that's a fucking huge thing for me, to even be feeling like I'm moving in that direction. So, and like seeing that growth too, right? Like not just because I think capitalism and working inside the health industry, especially like white wellness, like health industry, we can get so fixated on like there being this like clean, pure, static idea of like what health and healing is. And I think it cuts out a lot like the social dynamics, like working in the spas and like
yeah, and there's definitely like a finance thing to that too, of like, okay, these are the people who go to the spa because they have the day off. They're not working. It's like finding ways that, it's accessible for people, but it's also sustainable for you. Like it's
right.
hard because sometimes when you go into that more like accessible, open for everyone thing, you're not getting compensated enough and you're taking on way too much of a burden. So it's like finding that mixed in between of like, you can help all sorts of different type of people, but you're not like working for like $2 an hour or some shit.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a dance, and it's so complicated, and it's so individual. And trying, like, practicing health inside of capitalism, it's like you can do as much as you need to, and we still have communities that are unhealthy that we exist inside of, and we still have like wildness fucking happening on the government and structure level, and
I mean, America especially.
harm, just so much harm, so I think having that context also helps me relax into like feeling like I'm enough, like the work that I do is enough, the health that I have and the energy that I have is enough. Like, and I think that was a hard thing for me for a long time too, was just like having a lot of negative self-talk that made me feel like I wasn't enough, and like I wasn't helping people enough, or I wasn't in service enough. And it's like, that's not true.
Yeah, and like you don't have to sacrifice your body and your health like in order to help other people, which is like the kind of shit you're doing, like deep tissue, like that kind of massage.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me.
Think of
Yeah,
like when they think of like booking a massage, it's like that pressure, that intensity, and that's not. I think that could be helpful for some people, but most of the time it's like pushing too hard. Like we need to let go a little bit, ease off. Like most people feel so in such discomfort of just to sit there with like light touch, like a Reiki or something like that. Like people are like, I'm not doing anything right now.
True.
Like, that's the whole fucking point.
Yeah. And I think also if like your skill, like my skill set is in subtle body work, and I learned a lot through spas and seeing that many people, like a lot. I learned a lot. And it also helped me like ignore my skill set more by thinking that I had to kind of fit into that way of working.
Conform.
Yeah. So now as I'm like coming into my like subtle body skill, like appreciation, it's just, and I receive a lot of that work myself, and it's like what I believe in. And I think, body work is just such a huge thing. And it's like, it's great that we can all get what we need from the different parts of it. But I definitely believe in like subtle body work and nervous system support, and being gentle with the body. And like, I want people that are looking for like emotional healing and emotional integration and energetic integration to be on the table that I work with. It's my happy place. Craniosacral and Reiki now too. I think we've talked too about like, part of the reason I really wanted to learn Reiki was because when I would be doing craniosacral, which is not a lot of weight in these specific holds along the body that affect like a system in our body that's as tangible as like our heartbeat or our respiratory pulse. It's like this third kind of fluid system that exists in our body. And I would be doing those holds sometimes, and I would, in craniosacral, we talk about the therapeutic pulse, and I would feel that, but then I would feel this other stuff happening, and I didn't know what that was. And I was like, that was part of really why I wanted to do training with you, is like start differentiate, not that it totally matters, but just to have more like vocabulary with myself, or to be able to know like what maybe somebody's body or guidance is like asking for, and to be able to like give more of that. And it was totally Reiki, like especially holds at the ankles. I find that people their body want like grounding. Reiki, which makes sense because we need grounding so much.
Yeah.
So that's been really cool, because now I get to like explore how energy works for me and through me. And yeah, Reiki, and just doing Reiki on myself feels so good.
I think too, like, yeah, like what you said about the language, it's just being able to understand the dynamics. Like we can learn about our body, like, oh, the lungs do this does that. But like the energy, at least in America, is very much not like a systemized thing. Like other countries, like if you get acupuncture, they know all about the energy. Like other places of the world describe energy and it's like a real tangible thing. But to us, we're like, what the heck is that? I've never heard of that. But to have the language to describe it can help us, even if it's like we're not necessarily learning something new, we're like remembering how to do what we already naturally can do. And Reiki is just like an ignition, like opening stuff up, clearing stuff out in order for you to hold that frequency. So you're not using your personal energy, you're using this source frequency, which is helpful on the practitioner as well, because it's not draining. And you also receive healing as you send healing. So it's like a win-win.
Yes. And something popped into my brain and like flew right back out while you were saying that, but it might fly back.
It will come back if it's important. So what do you feel like in connecting with this guide? What do you feel like, if anything, you've done to continue connecting and like seeing how you can establish that relationship further?
They have become just like one of my repertoire of guides that I like call in consistently. Yeah, we kick it a lot. I say their name three times often.
Did I tell you that I have a guide that's called Iris? Because I was like, I think that's interesting. I have this guide that's a dragon and their name is Iris. And I was like, oh, Iris, maybe they're buddies.
I love thinking about our guides hanging out together. I mean, they're probably kicking it right now.
It's probably, I mean, I'm sure they're like just right up there. But mine is IRES.
Interesting. Dude, dragon guide.
Or no, ERES, sorry.
I love it.
Iris. But yeah, they're a green and gold dragon.
Well, I just want to know so many more of my guides. Like when I call in stuff, I say like, I call in my upper and lower world guides and my well ancestors and benevolent guides. And I used to be really into being like, and whatever guides that I don't know who fuck with me that support my like, joyous embodiment or whatever I'm working on. But yeah, Iris gets called in like really regularly. And I do connect with them with body work. Like if I'm needing some more clarity or to like, if somebody's having like a big emotional response that I'm feeling while my hands are on them, I might call her in for protection. And just remember that like things aren't mine and to let them go. But I will say something that I've been thinking about is also that the angel Iris is on the temperance card in my deck. And temperance to me doesn't relate to abstinence, or I think there's like an old interpretation of this tarot card that's about like moderation and not going to one or another extreme.
Not being too hot or too cold.
Yeah. And for me, this card is really about like alchemy and being able to stand in like two things at once. And sort of like the third product of like two things that are supposedly opposed to each other. And I feel like that in general is just such an important thing for me to know and embody, that I feel like there are parts of myself that are really paradoxical and that they're like true simultaneously and that they make me myself. And like I feel like I'm kind of a hype person, but I like do this really quiet, like subtle body work. And I think I can be really intense, but I can also be like really introverted and like somebody that needs a lot of space from humans to recharge. And none of these things are wrong, none of these things are bad, they're all just things that like make me. And I feel like that is something that Iris has been really working through me this whole time. and that I feel
Both
ease.
and.
Yes. And that I feel like ease and comfort in my body when I call them in. So if, I'm feeling like too much or not enough, it's like, no, maybe I should be fucking with Iris right now, because that's not the truth. Like, I am how I'm supposed to be. I'm like perfect how I am. And
do you know that song, Carly Rae Jepsen, Too Much?
I think I've heard it because I got a bestie that loves Carly Rae.
Oh,
But
really? You should listen
yeah.
to it.
All right, I'm gonna pull it up after this.
Yeah, I love her. She does a good pop song, but like the lyrics, I think you'd resonate with it.
Dope. Love
I
it.
definitely do. Yeah, to me, I see like when you talk about the Iris, I see like it's almost, how do I explain this? It's almost like, do you know like a thermometer?
Yep.
How there's liquid. I'm getting a vision, so it's hard to explain it in words. You know how it's like glass, and then there's like the red liquid on the inside.
Mm.
It's like, I see this on top of your head, like a tube, like a thermometer looking tube, and it's like liquid coming in. So it's like almost like I would explain it as like droplets of information. So it's like she might not give you like words like I am Irish, blah, blah, blah. It's like just kind of like seeping into your head. It's like in the middle of your head. But it looks like, I'll pull up an image after and I'll show you what I'm talking about. But it looks like liquid, but it's encapsulated into something.
Interesting. And she's like giving me that cosmic juice.
Yeah, it's almost like she's like, oh, I almost dropped the phone. It's almost like she's above you, like pushing it into your crown. But it's liquid. And it's like, it reminds me of like there was these little toys, I'm sure you might know what I'm talking about, but in the 90s, and like you like move them up and down, they're like different, like not a lava lamp, but like goos like that, and they like move into each other. It looks like that, like, but it's in glass. But it's like these different goos. I don't know.
So like Iris is like my goo mommy.
Yeah, exactly. Goo mama. It's like
into it.
It feels like I just hear a blanket of information, like it's like pouring it into you. So it's not so much, it's like subtle, like we said, like flowing, and then insight, or like, oh, I get it. It's not like so harsh of like instant realization. It's like protection, healing, and then you can kind of interpret that in your own human thoughts. I don't know if that makes sense, but
well, like I was saying, like none of my guides use like, or so far use words. And I definitely feel that like download feeling when I work with guides. I was just thinking about this the other day, like how I feel like I get downloads periodically and then they take me a while to understand, like that it's like it is like a drip. Like I feel like I have like a slow understanding of what I'm being, the information I'm receiving, that integrates slowly over time. And this journey really, I don't even think I've pulled this card for a really long time, Iris, like a couple years. I don't think that, or temperance. I don't think I've pulled temperance for a couple years, which is interesting because I got into recovery like over a year and a half ago. But yeah, it's like, it's not a card that comes up in my deck, in my pulls, but I remember for a while it was, and I just kind of even forgotten about this image. But doing the celestial journey and then like listening to this recording, I was just like, well, this is a being that is like really has been really present for me for a long time, which feels good. Like I want to feel it's, I also have a hard time allowing myself or in the past, I have had a hard time allowing myself to like feel how much support is around me, like the humans in my life that support me, the communities that support me, and then also like my spiritual like community that I feel like has been guiding me since I was a kid. Like, um, I had a pretty big spiritual life as a kiddo, I think because of like hard family life and feeling like pretty checked out of my body and not knowing how to interpret all the information my body was picking up on all the time. And you know, I think that helps me recognize how much spiritual guidance like I've had, how held I've been. And
There's that receiving thing.
yeah, yeah.
But
That old
yeah,
receiving stuff.
yeah. Well, I think too, like guides are always present. So it's like
Mm,
whether or not people are conscious of it, but to know, to get that name is cool. It's interesting. Like, oh, I have an angel guide. But it's like to have that physical feeling in your body and know, okay, when I feel that, that's how I know they're present with me.
mhm,
And it's not
mhm,
just like a concept, an idea. It's like,
mm,
oh, this is actually happening, even if I can't see it
mhm.
in this room.
Yeah, that presence.
Yeah. So to continue connecting with her, what are you gonna do?
What am I gonna do? Uh, that is a good question.
You don't have to have the answer yet. It's just a question to think about.
Yeah, it's a good. I like thinking about it. I mean, it's fun that she's associated with like rainbows.
Well,
um,
I'll take a picture too of the card and I'll put it on Instagram when I post about this episode so people can look at the image.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think I'm working with her in subtle ways that I don't know all the time, that I'm not like conscious of. But I feel like as I move into like kind of my next phases, I do want to, I know you're getting my wheels turning. Like I do want to bring it like out into my physical space more. I have to think about that. I like this question, Grace.
I think something that could be fun for you is to imagine it like you're writing a story, like play with it that way. Like, okay, if this was a character, like what would they do? Like, that might be a way for her to come through because that can help you get out of your mind and be less
Mm,
logical of like, oh, they can move through walls because that's what happens in the canon of this book. You know what I mean? I think that might be helpful for you to have, or even drawing it too. Like if you were to draw or write or describe the feeling that you're experiencing, like what would that look like? Like it could be a story, it could be a poem, or even just like an image. But like I think that would be helpful of like mm, making her a little more tangible and then seeing how you as you do that, like you could understand how she helps you.
I'm writing down notes. Yes.
You
Cool.
can listen to this back,
Well, yeah.
But
I
yeah,
have
no,
to
it's
put it
good to
all
write
in the
notes,
notebook.
have reflections. Yeah. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's like you might think of something right now and you wouldn't have thought of it later. So it's good to write those things.
um this is very on brand for me because like what I'm what I'm recognizing, what like my grief fan fiction that I'm writing about has turned into actually like, I'm excited to talk to you, we should talk more about this outside the podcast, but it's turned into like a story about ghosts and the paranormal and how like somebody who's really like logic minded but like in the world of physics, so like physics is like questionably hard science to me, but
Depends on
how
who you
like,
talk to.
yeah, it depends on what field, what part of physics, but it's like people who are kind of more science minded starting to have like spiritual experiences, and my brain started going into like if Iris was present with me, like if I could see Iris kind of a story. And so now I want to like
There
have
you
a
go. That's
writing
exactly what you need to
exercise.
do.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you need to do.
Love
I
it.
think it would be fun too. Like
Totally.
spirituality doesn't have to be so serious. I think, like you're saying earlier, like you can exist in the both. Like you can be a silly, fun person, and you can also be spiritual. You don't have to be like on an ashram, like chanting all day to be spiritual. Like there's way more to it than that. It's all just about how you live your life.
Well, and it's creativity and play, right? Like connecting to that creativity and play brings back like my creative inner kid self, who is like so informative to my spiritual practice and is such an intuitive practitioner. Like she's dope. I love my little kid, and she loves writing and she loves playing with that. Like, I don't think that it has to be that like, I mean, I also love structure with my magic and like being intentional with how I do things. And I love that like creative play, like trusting, like automatic writing and things like that, or collage, like without like intention, just kind of like pulling images. Like it's super important to be able to get into that like flowy, no structure, like no thought
channeling.
Place. Yes.
That's just like letting the spirit flow through.
Drip, drip, drip.
She's dripping.
Drip, 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 drip.
Yes. It's like, what is it called? Coffee. What is pour over coffee?
Yeah, give me that.
You can have tea. I made Em a coffee before this, and they were like, I'm gonna be really hyper. But that's what we want. We're supposed to be talking, so we will know to be quiet. We're also recording this from my house right now, and we're in different rooms because the echo was really bad. So a little BTS for you, a little behind the scenes. But yeah, I'd love to, like, anything else you want to share about how the journey, how you're reflecting on this journey, like what has kind of shown up as you listen back to it. And also you can talk about anything else if you don't have anything else to say.
I think it, like, listening again was just really reinforcing like trusting my body and I've never done any like past life work before or Akashic Records stuff, and it made me more curious about like what that kind of guidance can give me to integrate for what I'm working through. And it made me more curious about that type of stuff. And I think listening again just made me really, like you were saying, that I could go back to what I'm calling it, the reliquary, because this word popped into my head the other day, which apparently it's like a place, and I've never used that word before.
Did we talk about this?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm getting deja vu.
I told you because I was like, I'm going to listen to the recording again soon. And I was remembering that I needed to, and this word popped into my head that I've like never used before. And like a reliquary is like where relics are kept. So like sacred objects. So I like totally want to go back to my reliquary and pull out more of my books, and I can like guide myself through that.
Yeah, I have a meditation. I'll send it to you. I have a meditation on my YouTube to take you there, but also I can just there's a like I use a little opening prayer thing, and I learned from my teacher, and it's just like to basically open you up to the Akashic Records, to look at your Akashic Records, and it's just like inviting like God, source, spirit, energy to surround you, like so that you're not just like getting bombarded with too much information, just giving you like protection. I felt like I was going to sneeze for a second. But essentially you just speak out loud and it's taking you into that space. But I have a guided one on my YouTube that for people to like go in there. But it's essentially just finding a different way for you to do it. So I know you've done some shamanic journey stuff. So that's another way that you could do it, is like just saying out loud, like I like to say things 3 times, like saying I want to go into a journey today to into the upper world to connect with my past life versions of myself, or even saying I want to go into a journey into my personal Akashic records, and just like imagine yourself. You could be in a tree or a window or like some kind of transitional place. Imagine yourself going in there, and then you go up. I think of it like a little elevator in a tree, and it just takes me there, and that feels less effort. But you can also imagine like a staircase or some kind of void type of space of like in between, and that's going to take you there. It might, sometimes it's hard to get you all the way there. It's like you pop out into the astral and you're just floating, and it's like, okay, now we got to get you from that floating space into the records or into these other realms. So it's just finding a way that you can navigate yourself there. So the guided ones are helpful just when first starting, so you know, okay, I know where I'm going. But I think too, like, I'm sure you could ask Iris to help you, or I'm sure there might be even a specific guide that could help you do that, of like, calling for them to guide the way, to show you where to go. So you could definitely go there, or even asking to go and meet this past life version of yourself, if you want to go specifically back to that life that we went in the journey, or just asking anyone, like any past life version of you, to come forward. That might be like healing for you. But usually I would limit it to like 1 or 2 experiences as you do it, so you're not like going to 5 lives in like an hour. That would just be too overwhelming.
I would get blown out. Yeah.
Yeah. So like asking, like being specific with the words you say, so that you know, okay, this guide's coming forward, or I'm going to this place. So you're not like confused.
Yeah. That's what I had been taught with journeying too, to be like specific about your question, like to even write down a question before you go in. And if any kind of like confusion, or like having a guide that you have worked with before, that you can call
Do you have an
on
animal
to help
guide?
you know. I do. Yeah.
They would help you.
Word. I called in that animal guide because I even doubted my ability to go into the Akashic records this time with you. Like, I had to call in that guide.
What is your animal?
An orca.
Oh my God, cool.
That's my like underwater bud teacher who likes to fucking eat me all the time.
When I did this process, the journey, with my sibling for their birthday, and we specifically went to connect with an animal guide, and their animal guide was an orca. They had 2 actually. It was an orca and blue crab.
Oh my God, I need to talk with them about orca stuff.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, and it was really cool for them because they're open to all this stuff, but they don't like, and they'll meditate like sometimes, but they're not like super psychically visual or anything. So they were like so nervous to do it. They're like, I'm not going to see anything, like nothing's going to, they were like, I don't think anything's going to happen. I was like, well, you don't have to do this, but they wanted to, and they were able to like see so much, feel so much. And it was really cool because they were like kind of skeptical, like, I don't know about this. And yeah, they had an orca and a
blue crab.
I
love that. Yeah, I think learning to trusting our imaginations again is such a powerful thing to do, and not letting, I don't know, sometimes I'm down with things being really structured in journey spaces. I'm a little bit structure fixated though. And like learning how to not let things be super structured is also like going back to play. Like, it's also like a really important thing to me. And like, I can think about these types of visualizations in all different ways. And I think, it's helpful for me to think about like trusting my imagination, trusting my inner eye. And,
and like,
I found this to be a great way to support that. Yeah. Practicing that.
Sorry,
for sure.
That's how you learn. Like the imagination, we think of it so much of like, oh, that's fake. Like that's just like this false information. But like that's how most of spiritual information is going to come through, is your imaginative mind. Like you're not going to just, most of the time you're not going to just see like a straight up like angel walking in front of you like, hi, I'm your guide. It's like all in here. So it's like, how can you pull out the solid information and also know, okay, even if I get something that reminds me of a movie or reminds me of these things, like that doesn't mean that it's incorrect. That just means that's how your brain can help you interpret it. Like if someone thinks of like The Little Mermaid, like, or whatever, it doesn't mean like that's wrong. It just means maybe that story has something to show you. Like,
right. Yeah. And sometimes our guides talk to us in stories, like things that are familiar in ways that like we're used to seeing. I think that's so beautiful. And story is so powerful. Story is like so important. It's just so much happens in our inner world when we hear a story, and fucking love myth for that reason. And like depth psychology is so cool, and hypnosis practices are so cool. And I've seen and I have experienced so much healing through story and through imagination. So I was really excited that you shared this with me, and that I got to, because I've been skeptical about past life stuff myself, and just getting to feel like connected to that part of myself was so comforting. Like I just loved them so much, and I want to allow myself practices that let me love like parts of myself that I've lost or forgotten, or
you got to go back there and like open up all those jars and shit and see what's in there.
Yeah, I gotta like have them teach me hella shit. Like,
I mean, literally you can, like your past life version of you is a guide. Sometimes that's who the guides are, or a higher self version of you, or a parallel version, like future version of you. Like it can get really complicated to think about, but like you could learn on how to do all these magical practices just from this other person that is also you, which is like hard to think about, but it's just about asking the right questions.
No, I mean, I watch enough Marvel and Star Wars shit that like it's not. And like I'm also like, I'm totally gonna have like low-key feelings about this like other me, like past me. I'm gonna be like,
you're gonna be like into them, like
yeah,
I'm
gonna be like
what do you mean?
I'm gonna be like gay for myself in my past life, and I'm just gonna like hang out in their cottage in their fucking window
That's a
seat,
new
like
sexuality.
reading books.
LGBTQIA. P stands for past life.
My version of myself. Yeah. No shame, dude.
No, that's really interesting. And I honestly, I know you're kidding, but I think it could be like, that could be healing to understand like part of me is lovable, is desirable. And like to learn that from a different version of you, like we're joking, but it is, that's definitely something that could be helpful.
Totally. Yeah. And just that intimacy with self, and that like intimacy with self is so crucial. It's not like,
and it's not just like, oh, I'm going to like touch my tits and whatever. It's like being present with yourself, being slow, intentional, not just like having music playing all the time or podcasts or TV, like being able to actually be present with your thoughts, which is like so uncomfortable, even for people who are like used to being alone. It still is difficult.
Yeah. And I like, I've been doing a lot of inner kid work the last few months, and like feel that way about like tending to my inner kids. And like, I had an experience recently where like one of my inner kids comforted my other inner kid. And I was like, whoa, my inner kids can like support each other. Like,
that's so cool.
There's no limit. There's no like limit to how these things can be happening. And
it's kind of crazy.
It is. And it's so powerful. Yeah.
I just dropped my pen.
Throw that pen.
It's crazy. Yeah. And I think too, like, I know you did, when we did our Reiki 2, we learned to do, basically it's like kind of like a manifestation or like a healing grid. And we'll use crystals and different intentions to like clear stuff out or bring stuff in. So I had you do one of those for practice, and you did work a little bit around your inner child, inner teen. So it's cool to see, okay, like you did that whatever
Mhm.
many months ago, and
Mhm.
how that is weaving into your life. It's not just an instant healing, it's not just instantaneous. It's not like, okay, I did that meditation and then I saw the thing. It's like I
Right.
set that intention and then now it's showing up in many different ways.
Yeah, I've started taking the pressure off myself by thinking of these things as initiations. So it's like the
Mm,
start of a thing. And then when I have the lens that it's an initiation, it's like, oh, I don't even know how long this could be unfolding for. But what I'm doing is
forever.
opening the yeah, whew, is what I'm doing is like opening the door to these things, like opening the door to my inner kid grief, or opening the door to like figuring out really, do I work one-on-one with people in a healing context, and what does that look like if I do? Asking good questions and allowing things to unfold in their time is like some secret sauce of like adult person embodiedness that I feel like we should talk about more. Asking good questions and letting things like unfold in the time that they do.
I
Um,
see too, like an image of a when you like have a jar and you leave it in your car for a really long time, and then when you open it, it's like, and then like mold comes out. It's kind of like that is what I see. It's like you have to open it and the shit has to come out, but you have to let that all
mm,
move out before you can actually clean it. Otherwise, you're just
mm,
inhaling mold. Just
yeah,
a
especially
metaphor, but
especially working with like neglected, forgotten, lost parts of ourselves. It's like that's yeah, like that. I totally get that image that you're making. It's like sometimes my little kids like won't talk to me. It's really interesting. Yeah, I'm excited about doing more of these journeys with past self and going to that reliquary.
Mhm. Yeah, it's very interesting. And I think too, like, yeah, just establishing those connections, and that's going to inform you in many ways. It's just like seeing how you want to play around with it.
Mm.
And like, even if it's this serious thing, oh, I'm seeing my death, like, oh, this is horrible, this is painful, doesn't mean that it has to be like serious. Like, you can enjoy exploring, even if it's going to bring up these more intense things. Like, it doesn't mean that it has to be only done in this certain like stereotypical way.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's something for me to explore and practice feeling confident in. And that's why like we call in guides too, that to not be alone and to be able to ask like, is there something that you can show me, or is there a way that I can work with this thing that's feeling overwhelming, or um because like this wasn't a particularly terrifying like death experience or anything, but I could also imagine that there could be some things that you would contact that would feel like heavier a lot, and having some spiritual homies there would be necessary.
Yeah, and just allowing you to feel like safe enough to see, because sometimes things are like, oh, I don't want to look at that.
Mm,
Whether that's a past life or just something from this experience, this life or your childhood, it's like finding a way that's comfortable so it's not so damaging to the mind.
yeah, yeah, I hear that.
Well, is there anything else you want to share about the journey?
Not that I can think about right now. Uh, it was interesting the day I like re-listened to the recording. I had forgotten about the past life self being like, you know, be wild and be brave. And like that day I had in my like daily draw deck, I had drawn wild woman, and I was like, you're with me. Like it just felt yeah, I fucking love that confirmation stuff. But yeah, no, I can't think of anything else at the moment.
Yeah, well, I think it's good to just reflect and like you know, if more stuff comes up, you can always please tell me. I want to know.
Sure. Grateful to
I'm
have that recording
nosy.
too. Yeah. Yeah. It's so nice to have the recording of that experience to listen to too.
Yeah. Was it kind of weird to hear yourself in the like trance state, like your voice? Because you definitely
Oh,
sound different in it than when you're
yes.
talking.
You know what was weird though was like how many sounds were going on that I had no idea about sounds, like people talking in their
Yeah, it
yard
was
or like
loud with
birds
my
or like
neighbors.
children. Yeah. Your neighbor like yelling at their dog a little bit. Yeah. I didn't have any experience of that inside the journey. So that was really interesting to listen to the recording. Um, but yeah, I've actually heard myself in some journey recordings before that I've done with like a practitioner. So I'm used to that like other voice, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not that weird to me.
Well, it's like you're almost like you're sleeping and you're
Mm,
talking through your dreams or whatever. It's like,
mm, mm.
it sounds kind of weird, but I think it's important to record because there's so much in there that oftentimes you're going to forget once you come back. You're like, oh, that was cool. That was relaxing, but I literally
Totally.
don't remember anything that happened.
Totally. And that's the cool thing about talking out loud. Like I've done some journeying recording myself too, talking out loud, and it's really helpful because there can be so much information, and it's okay to let that go and let it integrate and not have to remember everything. But like there were so many nuggets when I was listening to this that I had forgotten about.
Yeah. And I think too, like, especially when stuff comes in like visual or like feelings, like be able to describe them in the moment. Cause like once you come out of it, it's so hard to remember. Like it's
It's
just
just like
same
a
as a
dream.
dream. Like you
Yeah.
can remember it for like 5 minutes and it's gone.
Yeah. Totally true.
And just to be able to like speak it out loud.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Grace.
Is there anything you want to share about your work stuff? Like, what are you thinking about? You also don't have to if you're not ready.
Well, I've been really interested in grief. I've been really nerding out on grief work and inner kid work. And I definitely am here for folks that like want to feel more embodied after having like some upheaval from spiritual and emotional stuff in all the ways that happens, and find craniosacral in my own life, like receiving craniosacral to be really supportive in integrating intense emotional things. So that's really kind of the direction that I'm moving in, is like doing hands-on work to support people with grief and gender expression and chronic pain, chronic health issues. I think that's more of like what I'm looking to do going forward.
Awesome. Do you feel like as you're exploring your gender, like that you're connecting with different types of clients?
A little bit. Like I work somewhere where I get a lot of new clients through a booking system, and I've been kind of in this process. Like I archived my professional account on Instagram, and I like kind of took a break from social media during the winter. So I haven't been promoting myself that much, but it is interesting even without doing that, like what kind of people the universe are bringing my way. So yeah, I think when I start putting myself out there more, I'll be interested to see if that's the case.
I think too, like the more that you can get comfortable talking about, it's not necessarily like I have to talk about my gender, but just being like open to exploring and sharing different aspects of you, not just like, here are my services, book online. It's like being able to see all these different parts of you. I feel like that helps people know, okay, this is a safe person for me. This is a person that could feel comfortable for me. And the more you can put yourself out, the more things can come in when you're ready.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think a lot has been like happening for me over the winter, and I'm feeling like more confident about putting myself out there, and appreciate
Coming
you.
out, the snake coming out of the hole.
shedding my skin, baby. Yeah, even like doing this podcast has been like a fun, slightly scary exercise for me. So I've had a really good time with you.
Thank you. I'm glad you did this.
Me too.
Anything else you want to share before we close out? Thoughts or
No,
feelings?
I don't think so. I just appreciate like connecting with you around spiritual work. And I feel like you've bolstered me so much in finding the way to like express myself through my practice. And it means so much to me. Your friendship and how you work with people has just been a big support.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I love you.
I love you.
Well, thank you all for listening. I'll put M's email and stuff in the show notes. So if you want to connect, check out what's coming next. And there was something else I was going to say. I think just seeing, like, not putting too much pressure on it and just seeing how things unfold.
That's been the name of my game.
It's like finding it's like, I don't know this is an example, but like finding a good waiting track. Like, when you're on hold and it's just like the worst music, like finding something that is like a good in between state, like, and being happy and joyous in that until other things shift and you're ready to do something differently.
Yeah, I am like getting more comfortable with the unknown than I have previously. I feel like I have a good waiting track right now. I don't know what it is or what it sounds like, but I've been able to stay on the line.
Yeah, and we pulled a card too, like right before our recording, and it was all about like that in between state and not being afraid of like the dark and the void space of like, oh, it's okay to be in the dark sometimes.
It's hella necessary.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for listening. We're gonna go eat food, so I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening to this episode, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.